The Politics program is brought to you as always by everybody who supports patreon.com/JuRY. If you are a $3 a week subscriber, you get not only this show, which will always be free, but you get little mini headline episodes on Monday and Friday. Triple your PX3. 1P for each episode. We spread them out if you pay us $3 a week. I love doing them. You also get my little digest of everything that I am reading. So go ahead and support the show. Patreon.com/JuRY. But enough of talking about how we do the show. What do you say we just do the damn thing?
Politics, 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 politics.
Welcome. This is the Politics program. My name is Justin Robert Young. How do I put this? The last few days, not few days, last day, last 24 hours, the biggest thing that people have wanted to talk to me about is not the normal shit they want to talk to me about when it comes to politics. Normally, it's about dumb stuff. Kid Rock's running for Senate. Let me go tell JuRY. Donald Trump tweeted something silly. Let me go tell JuRY. New evidence is breaking in the collusion case between Russia and Trump. I need to go to JuRY, and I need to find out whether or not this is smoke or fire. But what everybody wanted to talk to me about in the last 24 hours was not even a question. It wasn't even, do you think? What do you think? How do you think? No. It was a statement, and we're already seeing it in the chat room. We are all going to die. That's it. No nuance. No pathway forward. Just a very fatalistic, we are going to die. Now, if somebody asked me, JuRY, do you think we are going to die in a nuclear holocaust because we have gotten into nuclear war with North Korea? I would say probably not. I'll let you know. If I thought that we were really going to die, I would be packing up me, Ash, and the birds, and we would be driving to Salt Lake City. And I would just be making friends with Scott Johnson and the rest of the Mormons because I know all those motherfuckers got shelters. I don't know. All those motherfuckers they've been prepping since they were 5 years old. Befriend a Mormon. If you are dead serious that you think you are going to die, then I implore you to befriend a Mormon. Find somebody who definitely has a fallout shelter because these dudes have been seeing this coming since the beginning. So let's break down exactly what we're talking about. North Korea over the weekend tested a missile. It was the first time that they had tested a missile successfully that could hit the United States. Donald Trump responded to these tests by saying, well, let's just go ahead and read. This is by New York Times, a failing New York Times article by Stephen Lee Myers and Choi Sang-hoon. Beijing. Dateline. President Trump's threat to unleash fire and fury against North Korea sent a shudder through Asia on Wednesday, raising alarm among allies and adversaries and, to some observers, making the possibility of a military conflict over the North's nuclear program seem more real. It's not nuclear, it's nuclear? Nuclear? I think I say it wrong. I say it like W said it. I don't know. With North Korea responding that it would, if attacked, strike American military forces in Guam, analysts warn that the escalating statements increase the likelihood of war, perhaps one based on miscalculation, should one side's fiery rhetoric be misread by the other. Some played down Mr. Trump's remark on Tuesday as simply a warning not to attack the United States, albeit one whose tone was more typical of the North Korean propagandists than it was of past American presidents. Officials in South Korea and Japan said that while the situation was tense, it had not reached a crisis point. Secretary of State Rex W. Tillerson played down any imminent threat to North Korea, saying on Wednesday, Well now, I think Americans should sleep well at night. Have no concern about this particular rhetoric over the last few days. He then rolled his own cigarette and took his trusty steed into the friscolating dusklight. I added that last part. He did say that quote, though. Back to the New York Times story. Still, some in the region said that the danger of war had not yet seemed as clear and present in decades. What was unthinkable just years ago is no longer, they said. One final quote here. We're going to see a confrontation between the United States and North Korea that will be ferocious and strong and bloody, said Chang Shihao, an associate professor of international relations at Renmin University in China in Beijing. He called Mr. Trump's language explosive and said that the threat and counter-threat had resulted in a new stage of confrontation. All right. So we're going to get into a lot of the kind of ancillary shit here. But to answer the statement that I've gotten over the past 24 hours, I am not worried about dying in a nuclear holocaust. Now, in general, I try not to worry about things that I cannot control directly. I cannot control Donald Trump's rhetoric. I cannot control the decades-long autocratic, brutal dictatorship in North Korea, which, aided by China, has been allowed to create a nuclear arsenal. If there is nuclear war between the two sides, I will have precious little to say about it. So in general, I don't worry. Because, what are you going to do? But also, I don't think this is going to happen. I have found North Korea to be far more of a problem because of where they get their money than I have found them to be a problem because of who they are. So somebody pointed out that North Korea is not the problem, China is the problem. And in general, to put, my amateur opinion, I'm Dave Foley. I need to get this on my soundboard. I'm Dave Foley in Kids in the Hall. Who are you? Oh, me? I'm just a guy. I'm just mopping in the background. I don't know shit about ass. But following international relations, North Korea's MO has been, specifically for the last 20 years, been about survival. They are an autocratic dynasty. If they do not stay in power, they are all dead. Done. Dead like Dillinger. There is an entire power structure of people whose power is handed down family to family member that, in the words of Blazing Saddles, are out here to protect their phony baloney jobs. There is a reason why they have been swayed in the past with tactics like cutting off their flow of luxury goods. Because if they are not living the life that they are living, it's death. It's popular uprising and death. They are constantly scheming against each other, and they are constantly murdering each other, those in the top power structure of North Korea. You know how periodically you wind up reading these stories about, some North Korean minister getting like shot with a blow dart of poison or eaten by dogs and stuff like that? That's because, like most autocratic regimes, nobody trusts each other, and they're constantly sniping. We'll get to those allegories a little bit later, stateside. So, what sense does it make for North Korea to commit suicide? Because that is what they would be doing. In fact, they have already pushed the boundaries of what they are doing in terms of continuing to arm themselves, that even stalwart allies like Russia and China voted against North Korean interest in a UN vote. By and large, UN votes are fucking totally meaningless. However, at sometimes they do have symbolic value. It was of symbolic value that China voted and Russia voted against North Korean interests. Do I think that Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un are mentally unstable? No. In fact, I think there's a body of evidence that Kim Jong-un is more savvy than his father was. And also, Kim Jong-un's like a basketball head. We can just send the Globetrotters over there. We can knock this shit out in 2 seconds. I think it is in North Korea's interest to talk as loud as they can to continue to be respected on the world stage for being a violent nuclear power. I don't think it is ever going to be in their interest to start biting. If they attacked Guam, number one, and I don't follow this tightly, so if somebody is following North Korean propaganda directly, then y'all can tell me. But North Korea has already gone from saying we have a weapon that can hit the United States to saying we might hit Guam. Guam is closer. Guam, I believe, would be the closest U.S. protectorate. But I think it is more likely, if Kim Jong-un was mentally unstable, it is more likely that they face an internal coup than effectively commit suicide for the entire country. Because, yeah, I mean, TVC gone, we have big military bases in Guam. My point is not to say that it wouldn't be a strategic hit for North Korea. My point is that it would be an act of war. And even if they did that, it's over. It's done. Finito. Because at that point, I don't believe even China would stand with them. And without China, let's say we didn't immediately take military action and depose Kim Jong-un and put the entire leadership of everybody in that organization on trial in The Hague for war crimes. Let's say they didn't. I think at that point, they've lost their bargaining chip with China. They're not an effective proxy for China anymore. Like that, the heat in that kitchen is too hot. So, nuclear war to me seems unlikely. Do I think that Donald Trump saying something that, as the New York Times wrote, I'm not in love with that being in a news article, but I don't think it's untrue, that it's dialogue that sounds more akin to what North Korean propaganda would be than the measured tone of a president. Not untrue. Sounds, sounds about right. Coach from Home points out that China does need to remain on good terms with the United States because we're printing a card game there in the next 3 months. So if we can not go ahead and get into a war in Asia, it would be pretty nice for everybody who backed Action News. Otherwise, be ready for a hell of a Kickstarter delay email. Do I think fire and fury was a dumb thing to say? Yes. I think President Trump saying that we would hit back with fire and fury, the likes of which they've never seen. That's it's this side of Toby Keith's we'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way. And Uncle Sam put his name at the top of your list. That's always my my karaoke song, for the record. Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue by Toby Keith. Because nothing gets a crowd riled up by getting up there for karaoke and saying, this is a song about 9/11. Apparently, the fire and fury comment was not planned. Donald Trump's new chief of staff, General Kelly, said, or apparently in consultations with Trump, had agreed that they wanted to say something that sent a strong, unwavering message, but nobody said fire and fury. This was maybe just me. I don't know if any of y'all had this same thought, but like as soon as he said fire and fury, I kind of hoped that like when you translated it to Korean, that fire and fury came off as something different than fire and fury. It's like, we will attack you with ice cream and puppies, the likes of which you've never seen. And Kim Jong-un was like, dope. I love both those things. Maybe we need to not bomb the United States.
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
Alexa just told me I'm not quite sure how to help you with that. I don't think anybody is. All right. Alexa, shut up. So there's that. I don't know enough about international relations that we can go any further. Here's the other big story of the day. This just broke. Coming from the Amazon Washington Post. FBI has conducted pre-dawn raid of former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort's home. We read now from Carol D. Laning, Tom Hamburger, and Rosalind Helderman. FBI agents raided the Alexandria home of President Trump's former campaign manager late last month, using a search warrant to seize documents and other materials, according to people familiar with the special counsel investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election. Federal agents appeared at Paul Manafort's home with advance warning of the pre-dawn hours on July 26th, the day after he met voluntarily with the staff of the Senate Intelligence Committee. The search warrant was wide-ranging, and FBI agents worked with Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III, departed the home with various records. Jason Maloney, a special spokesman for Manafort, confirmed that agents executed a warrant at one of the political consultants' homes and that Manafort cooperated with the search. Does cooperated just mean that he didn't get his door knocked down? That he, opened the door? Manafort has been voluntarily producing documents to congressional committees investigating Russia's interference in the 2016 election. The search warrant indicates investigators may have argued to a federal judge that they had reason to believe Manafort could not be trusted to turn over all records in response to a grand jury subpoena. It could also have been intended to send a message to President Trump's former campaign chairman that he should not expect gentle treatment or legal courtesies thanks to Mueller's team. So the big question, does this get us closer or farther away from Paul Manafort becoming a bigger deal in this? Does it get us closer to Donald Trump becoming more and more implicated? The answer is a very unsatisfying maybe. I've said from the very beginning that I thought it was likely that Paul Manafort specifically probably did something that, as Arrested Development would describe as the mid to light treasons. He's somebody that previously had contact, allegedly, with the Russian government. He had worked for candidates in Europe that had ties to the Russian government. And if you remember, he came to Donald Trump's campaign because at that point there was just Donald Trump was picking off the scrap heap. He was picking off the scratch and dent bin in terms of operatives that he could work with. There were 16 other candidates that were in the race, and Donald Trump, although leading, looked like an entirely combustible campaign that previously had trouble dealing with their campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, grabbing a Breitbart reporter by the arm and not being able to smooth that over behind the scenes. So enter Paul Manafort, somebody who has run unconventional campaigns before, has connections to the Republican power structure, and happens to have these connections to Russia. So if we are going to walk down the road that Russia specifically directed these hacks to aid the election of Donald Trump, then if somebody was going to be in the loop on this, Manafort would be the more likely, if not most likely, person to be in contact. So what could this mean? From what I know of FBI raids and FBI investigations, of which Robert Mueller was the former director of the FBI, what they like to do is gather as much information as possible and then press for as many things as they can nail down. Robert Mueller will find this a failure and an embarrassment if he doesn't put somebody in jail. Because otherwise, you are an incompetent investigator. That's just the way the FBI looks at shit. They want paper and convictions. That's their mission. Seek and destroy. Like Shark Week. Robert Mueller's hat is like a shark's fin. He's after it. So in a way, if you are a Trump supporter, you could say, this is a good thing. Because maybe now the noose is tightening more on Manafort and less on Trump. Because if that's the end game here, then Trump wins. Trump can say, hey, listen, I didn't know anything about this. That was inappropriate. There's a reason why we fired this guy before we won the election. We don't like him. Strike It Rich says, is Scooter Libby an available patsy again? Yeah, I mean, like, there is someone's going to go down for the amount of time that they've spent on this. I still find it unlikely that it'll be Trump, but Manafort, like I've said before, if there was a connection, he would be the guy. He's the guy that has, we've talked about, that meeting with the Russian lawyer, right? I'm a Russian lawyer. That created the pipe that you would say, all right, here is the pipe of information that goes from a lawyer that has connections to the Kremlin directly to the Trump White House when they've talked about this kind of shit before. So, Stoic Scroll, it says great Russian accent. That was my Tracy Morgan doing Star Jones. I don't know why I explained that. Let's move on. You don't need to create a pipe if you're talking about Manafort. He's worked for these people before. So that pipeline is already there. So here we go. This is also from the end of this Washington Post report. Manafort's allies fear that Mueller is trying to build a case against Manafort unrelated to the 2016 campaign in hopes that the former campaign operative would provide information against other more in Trump's inner circle in exchange for lessening his own legal exposure. The significance of the record seized from Manafort's apartment is unclear. So, the idea is he's done some dirt. And listen, that man was out, was it the Ukraine? That he was like supporting pro-Kremlin candidates? Like, that's a place where like the Russian intelligence has likely poisoned opposition political leaders. So we'll see, and listen, it won't necessarily just be the fact that they're trying to flip him. It would be the fact that if they can't find anything else, they got to nail someone to the wall, and Manafort seems like the kind of dude that might nail to the wall. That just might be it. Here's the other thing that I'm annoyed about. How about this one? Can everybody raise your right hand? Raise your right hand. Everybody, come on. Raise your right hand right now. I want to see everybody in the chat room. Just tell me that you are raising your right hand. We're going to take an oath. All right? We're going to take an oath right now. Even if you're driving, raise one hand off the steering wheel and raise your right hand. Actually, pull over to the side of the road. There we go. Everybody's raising their right hand. Good. I state your name, solemnly swear that I will not knowingly spread the idea that there is a secret plan being executed by Donald Trump. That's it. Put your hands down. You have now taken this oath because I am really tired of this. I think this is the dumbest clickbait that we have ever seen, is the idea that literally every random bit of chaos can be tied back to another random bit of chaos, and we're all going to pretend that this is some secret plan and not a lot of random chaos. So here we go. Trump called for the acting FBI director's firing hours after FBI agents raided Paul Manafort's home. An incriminating fact pattern emerged. This is from Think Progress. We read from Aaron Rupar's article. On Wednesday, the Washington Post broke that FBI agents raided the Alexandria home of President Trump's former campaign chairman late last month, including using a search warrant to seize documents and other materials, according to people familiar with the special counsel investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election. So here we go. In light of the news about the raid on Manafort's home, Trump's tweets on that day, on July 26, are of renewed interest. That was the day that Trump abruptly posted a string of tweets announcing that the United States government will not accept or allow transgender individuals to serve in any capacity in the U.S. military. Last Friday, Politico reported that Trump's declaration stunned White House and DOD lawyers who had warned him against such a ban. But more directly of interest are the factually inaccurate tweets Trump posted later that day asking why Attorney General Jeff Sessions hadn't moved to replace then acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe. So I'm not going to get into this line about the FBI director because yes, this is the first time that he mentioned the FBI stuff, but he had been writing Sessions for days at this point. But this idea, and this article probably isn't the best example of it, but this idea that like, oh, Donald Trump intentionally ran that, tried to distract from the from the FBI raid with the transgender ban. But wait a minute. Wasn't he trying to distract from the fact that he might fire Attorney General Jeff Sessions at the time that he tweeted it? Huh? And then he wound up tweeting about Jeff Sessions. Most likely, if we're going to go ahead, hold on, wait a minute. Let me dial this number. 1-800-Occams. Dial 1 for razors. Oh, wait. The message on my phone just said it's probably what was reported the day after, that the transgender ban was something that was a sticking point in the budget that they were working on, and he decided to take larger, faster, more intense action. He decided to take action with a fire and fury that had never been seen before. I don't think that he was trying to distract from this. Was he aware of it? Was he pissed off? Probably. Did it have something to do with the fact that those tweets came out? Maybe. Did it have anything to do with the fact that he was all up in Mueller's butt afterward? Yeah, probably. But do I think that he's playing 19th dimensional chess? And he is setting things up. He is setting moves up long before without a communication team, without somebody else who is keeping him on his toes. No, I don't think that's possible. I think he is operating on the seat of his pants like he always has. It's just what it is. The idea that we can continue to get ourselves worked up after 2 months ago, Steve Bannon was the shadow president. Oh, wait, he's not. Now he's demoted to, he's handcuffed to a boiler room in the basement because Jared Kushner won the Game of Thrones, and now Jared and Ivanka are really in control. Oh, wait a minute. But now Reince Priebus has reestablished his control, and it's gone because Ivanka and Jared have reestablished their control and put in the mooch. And now we are finally comprised of total outsiders. And we're gone because now the mooch got fired. And now Manafort might not look like the genius that he was before. And now we have, now entering the game, player 2, General Kelly. And now he's in control. And we're on vacation. So now out the window is all that message control. I don't necessarily even think it's stupidity, to be honest with you. I don't. I think it is how he has operated. He's operated by the seat of his pants, assuming that his agility will be what makes the difference. Power plus agility. He will tailor his message not to the 24-hour cycle, not to the 12-hour cycle, but to the minute. He is flexible enough with his moral stance that he does not care if he actively contradicts himself. What he cares about is whether or not the people that are listening to him believe he is right now. Do I think that that's the smartest way to run the presidency? No, I don't. I don't think that that's the smartest way to run the presidency. And I don't think that you need to be up to the minute when you're the president because you set the agenda. So if you are constantly changing the agenda, then I think your messaging is ultimately hurt for the fact that things are changing as often as they do. For example, permit me, if you will, sir, please permit me this volley. There is a figure in professional wrestling by the name of Vince Russo. Vince Russo was a very prominent part of one of wrestling's biggest boom periods in the late 90s, but he is known for being over-reliant in the storytelling mechanic of the swerve. The swerve is the unexpected change that happens when you least expect it, totally changing the frame of reference of the story you have just watched. Specifically, two best friends are fighting over a belt. Next thing you know, just as they're about to fight, swerve! They both love each other, and one of them's just going to fall down and let the other one pin him and take the title. All of the drama built up to that didn't matter. Now, they are friends. You didn't see that coming, now did you? Now, every once in a while, a swerve is brilliant. A swerve is amazing. Just in the same way that in political messaging, the right tack 50% can be all the difference if it's done in the right moment. The damaging that you do of your story, if you are a storyteller who is too reliant on changing the dynamics of the story you are telling, is that eventually the integrity of everything begins to erode. If on the same show, two best friends have become worst enemies and two worst enemies have become best friends, now you are constantly on the lookout to see everything, as opposed to narrowing your focus and being surprised when something comes in from stage left. Similarly, Donald Trump finds himself in a problem now where if he is not more consistent with his opinions, then he begins to erode his ability to govern from those opinions. And so now I think he has boxed himself in on the LGBT issue in a way that I didn't think that he was before. I told y'all that I was wrong about this. I was wrong about the fact that I thought that Donald Trump was going to destabilize Washington by beginning his term doing things that were outside of the Republican orthodoxy. And I thought the easiest thing he could do would be to do something positive on LGBT issues. That didn't happen. But then again, to do that would require long-term planning, something that the Trump administration does not seem particularly adept at doing. Is it trying to make his base happy, says J.C. Calhoun? Yeah, of course. He is trying to make his base happy. And to his credit, he has continued to feed them raw meat. But you don't become president and get reelected only playing to your base. Aside from the fact that doing that and only playing to your base was something that I think Obama did too much of. And I think it ultimately hurt his stature as the president. I think it created the environment that if the Republicans in Congress weren't such dick-stepping, kookaburras, would have been the reason why his signature legislative achievement would be ripped out of Congress at this point, because he did play to his base too much. Donald Trump is doing that even more so than Obama did. And I think that ultimately is damaging. But, what do I know? And speaking of that, let's move into this. If we all understand that White House intrigue is what it is, we now have this. Apparently, McMaster, the national security advisor, is at odds with Steve Bannon. And Bannon hates McMaster. McMaster hates Bannon. All the Bannon allies are going after McMaster. Uh-oh. What's going to happen? Whoa, man. I wonder who's in charge now. Spoiler alert, nobody. B Viber says, I think he has more supporters than you think. I don't doubt the support of Donald Trump. I think in general, somebody that comes in with that kind of momentum can't possibly help but to have elements of that recede over time. Everybody likes the Crusader. Not everybody likes the new king. Revolutionaries very rarely wind up making good bureaucrats. But beyond that, it is incumbent upon you when you are the president to expand your base if you want to get reelected. And I don't think that that's happening. Now, would that be enough? Would that be enough to trigger in a week's time, or sorry, in a year's time, that we would be looking at just the way? That remains to be seen. All right. I'm not going to play this song because I don't want this YouTube to get muted. But I do want to point out something that I've been saying for a while on this show. We are going to get the freaks. The freaks are coming out at night when it comes to politics. Kid Rock's flirting. Now look at this. Miranda for New York governor. On Today, Cynthia Nixon says a lot of people would like me to run. This written by Emily Hall of the Amazon Washington Post. Actress Cynthia Nixon is playing coy about her possible political ambitions, which have New Yorkers whispering about her making a run for governor. During a Tuesday morning appearance on NBC's Today Show, the woman most famous for playing Type A attorney Miranda on Sex and the City declined to make a big announcement. I cannot, she said after host Al Roker pressed her to announce her political intentions on the morning show. But she said she's giving it some hard thought. I think there are a lot of people who would like me to run for a variety of reasons. I'm telling you, this is going to happen. It's going to happen more than it's ever happened before. We're going to get so many non-traditional candidates. Like, why wouldn't they? Donald Trump's our president. If you are an actor who thinks you could be a political presence, why would you not run? And I wouldn't blame him. I don't blame him. Because you want to know what? Career politicians should be able to beat celebrities. If your career politician can't beat a celebrity, maybe they're not really good at their jobs. Maybe they haven't done enough to bind themselves to their voter base that literally any old Yahoo can stroll in off the streets and beat them. Maybe it says more about our feeling toward politicians and how they don't represent us than it does about the fact that Kid Rock or Cynthia Nixon wants to run for office. Think of a celebrity. Every time a lot of people come to me and they're like, oh my God, the end of the world. Kid Rock's running for Senate. Think of every politician that runs, or every celebrity that runs for a political office, not as who they are, but just a walking voting column that just says, fuck it. Imagine that it wasn't a celebrity. Literally, it's not Kid Rock. It's just a voting column that says, fuck it, wearing a red fedora and a mink coat. And for Cynthia Nixon, it's a voting column that just says, fuck it, with a Cosmopolitan and some Louboutin heels. If the politician running against that person can't beat the fuck it column, then that is their problem. A politician running against a celebrity is Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. Yes, it will be more interesting than a normal politician versus politician match. No, it should not be competitive. And if it is, that means that the person who's fighting on their home turf is not doing a good job. Phoenix Wow says, you mean like Hillary? You said it, not me. Just kidding. I've said it 1,000,000 times on this show. Yes, like Hillary. Hillary should have beat Donald Trump. But we've talked about that 1,000,000 times, so we don't need to go over it again. All right, let's get in some good old fashioned Trump folderol. This has been making the rounds today. Trump begins his day with a folder of flattering news and photos. President Trump allegedly has his own version of his magic mirror, comprised of RNC war room staffers. According to reports by Vice News, Trump begins every day perusing a special folder of documents. The folder, derisively called the propaganda document by some, contains flattering news coverage and sometimes simply nice photos of the president. As described by Vice, the folders are filled with screenshots of positive cable news chyrons. Those are the lower third headlines and crawls. Admiring tweets, transcripts of fawning TV interviews, praise-filled news stories, and sometimes just pictures of Trump looking powerful. Sarah Huckabee Sanders describes the report as not true, while Vice News reports that Sean Spicer disputed the nature of the folder without providing further detail. So this is hilarious. I love talking about this stuff. Here's a shock. You guys, hold on. Politicians are vain people. Politicians are paranoid people. Politicians need constant reassurance that they are good, that they are doing good, and that people like them. I once knew somebody who was interning for Chuck Schumer. I've told this story before. And her whole job was to read the newspapers that covered the Senate, specifically in New York State. So all your papers in Buffalo and Rochester and Syracuse and Albany and all points in between. She then not only had to cut out every article that mentioned Chuck Schumer, she had to cut out every article that mentioned the then other senator, the junior senator from New York State, Hillary Clinton, and then tally how many times she was mentioned compared to how many times he was mentioned. A running tally. Does it shock me that this exists? No. Do I think that this isn't exactly what has been reported by Vice News? Yeah, probably. It's probably more of what I just described, where it's, not only all the news stories, but also tweets and stuff like that. Do I think that they also slip in positive stuff in there because they all want to keep their jobs? They don't want word to come down 2 layers removed from the White House that I don't like how this folder is being put together. Give me different people who are putting together the folder. Yeah. Do I think that they mockingly call it the propaganda folder? Yeah. But it is hilarious. They're vain, ridiculous people. I'm just saying. They're just silly. All right, one more news story, and then we'll get into the emails. If you've watched CNN, you're familiar with Kayleigh McEnany. Kayleigh McEnany was basically the blonde Trump supporter that would be on all the CNN panel shows. I think James Woods is the other guy that they usually get on there. Well, she ain't with CNN no more. She quit, and now she is on Trump TV. This is on Donald Trump's Facebook page. It is a video shot on a green screen giving the real news. The real news. McEnany. Sorry, not McEnany. I don't want to talk about this all that much, but I do want to say enough with this state TV thing. All right? Does it look like state TV? Yes. It does, 100%. It is effectively propaganda produced by Donald Trump, being paid for by his reelection campaign, and distributed to his base. Yes, it looks like state TV. Is it state TV? No. It's a Facebook page. You can't put state TV on a Facebook page. It's a Facebook page. Now, if this was distributed via the must-carry stuff for Sinclair Broadcasting, yeah, I would have more of a problem with it. But do I think that Donald Trump can do whatever the hell he wants, including hiring this vapid lady to recite his things I did good this week, talking points? Yeah, he can do whatever he wants. All right? Yes, Sandwich Brad, it's exactly what I'm saying. Much in the way that Girls Trip taught us that you can't get an infection in your booty hole, it's a booty hole. You can't run a state-run television show from a Facebook page. It's a Facebook page. So enough. We can be annoyed with it. You can make fun of what it looks like. You can compare it to other stuff. But here's something that you can't compare it to. State-run television is on the largest mandatory broadcast platform. Also, state-run television normally restricts other kinds of television. This is the kind of entertainment that the people who are following Donald Trump on Facebook want and crave. This is Brondo. It's what plants crave for the people that are diehard Trump fans on Facebook. This is what they want to be hearing about. So that's it. Damn. Tell you what do you think Paul Manafort's up to? What do you think he's up to right now? You know, he had his stuff raided, right? Out in Alexandria. You know, I'll tell you what, maybe he deserves a break. He deserves a break. He does deserve a break. You know, I'll tell you what. You know, maybe me and Manafort, I'll fly up to Old Virginia. I'll go ahead and I'll take him out. You want to know what? Drinks are on me. Because this is a Virginia governor's race.
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
Dance, 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 dance.
That booty.
All right, this is a Quinnipiac poll from August 3rd to August 8th with a sample size of 182 registered voters with a 3.8 margin of error for the Virginia's governor's race. Let's go ahead and take a look. First, coming to the stage, we have the former head of the Republican National Committee. He has a 38% share of the vote. His name is Ed
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
But your headliner, he is currently in the lead and the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, Ralph Northrup! So there we go, a 6-point lead with a 3.8% margin of error. Still a lot of time to go, but an interesting close race out there in old Virginia. All right, everybody, go ahead and email into this show, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Again, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Brandon writes, on the last PX3, you asked about former insurance company's employees, so I thought I'd reach out. I worked for a health insurance company in the Pacific Northwest for almost 8 years. Started as a customer service rep, explaining complex insurances to people who had no idea what I was talking about. And then I moved into claims, which is in the processing of payments with the doctors in the hospitals. I worked my way up into the high dollar claims, including $1 million plus claims, and eventually became a manager over the individual line of business, which was the most impacted by the ACA. Just wanted to offer my services if you have any questions regarding what I was doing during the start of the ACA and how all of that really changed the health insurance companies and what the intent of the bill was, though it didn't quite pan out in a lot of ways. I read Trump's first bill that he proposed, which, if I remember correctly, was the first draft of the world's greatest healthcare plan, because of course it was. I was horrified by some of the huge flaws regarding pre-existing conditions and provider-specific penalties. I then quickly lost the will to read all of the changes day after day. You seem very well-versed in healthcare, which is really refreshing, but if you have any questions or need clarifications, I'm more than happy to help where I can. I have a fair amount of insight from the insurance perspective that's hopefully useful to someone. Brandon, thank you so much for emailing in. Yes, here's my biggest question from you from the insurance side. I just need you from the insurance side to explain insurance relationship with doctors in the plainest English that you can, because I think that's where I need you to explain what I often describe oversimplistically as a problem of profit motivation between doctors and insurance companies that makes everything we pay for way more expensive than it needs to be. So that's what I am looking for. If you can give me in plain English that, and then what the ACA did to insurance, how they intended to fix that, or not fix that, or just paper over it, and then how the ACA didn't work, I will read each and every thing that you write in, because I think that this is way too important to not talk about. Truth V7 in the chat asks if you can also ask to confirm or deny that you can't get an infection in your booty hole, as has been taught to us by Girls Trip. All right. Jason writes, thank you for being so cool about everything. So, in the middle of it all, and I think that's okay, every emotion in life, maybe in this country, is played to the extreme. You don't just feel sad, you play Alanis Morissette. And you're dramatically sad. You don't just feel angry, you play Slipknot and break things in your house, and you're dramatically angry. It's hard to be a man in this world and just deal. I don't know a better word, but I think that works. You live life feeling like you just shut it all off or turn it all on. And you feel like you have to go 100% all the time. Like that's how the world is telling you to live. You don't know what a functioning middle looks like. You try to look at examples of others around you, but everybody's effed up in their own ways. It's a first world small problem, but it is my problem. I struggle with dealing with my feelings. Not meaning that I'm over dramatic, just that I don't know how to deal all the time. Looking at my past and how I've lived, I've been good at going for it in many situations, and my failures have given me a lot of shame, lots of worry. That there was public shame and public failures too. Through your One Mic show, you've helped me realize that shame is perfectly okay, and I need to just feel it and be cool. And in another episode, you taught me that the reason rich kids are so successful is that A, they have no shame, and B, they don't have that much of a fear of failure because who gives a fuck? They're rich. They can screw up 1,000,000 times and still be rich. It's helped me deal with those moments of shame and helped me to tell myself that I was okay when I went for things even if I failed publicly. Well, thank you so much. I think this might have actually been for JuRY, but hell, I think it's good advice either way. Just deal. Specifically when it comes to politics. Just dealing is underrated, my opinion. Craig writes, funny story. Once I found myself getting tired of the free lunches at work. Oh, this is in response to my pizza and subs argument. That, ultimately, specifically with healthcare, all anybody wants to do is argue about pizza versus subs with no room for the middle. Funny story, once I found myself getting tired of the free lunches at work, cold sandwiches from Subway, I went out for Chinese on my own dime instead. I brought it back to the meeting, and I ate there as a sign of protest. Didn't really change anything, but I also really enjoyed that spicy chicken. I'll tell you what, in that allegory, you would be a private sector solution. Congratulations. Your spicy chicken is SpaceX. And David writes, I am actually friends with the pride flag guy that you referenced in the most recent episode of Politics. Let me know if you'd like me to get in touch with him. I would love to get in touch with the pride flag guy. We played a video of the 1996 DNC, the Democratic National Convention, where everybody was doing the Macarena, and there was a dude in a pride flag doing the Macarena. I would love to talk with the pride flag guy. So yeah, David, I would love to do that. So go ahead and email me, put me in an email with him. I'd love to just ask him questions about what it was like to be I don't know. I'm going to assume he was a gay activist or was there at least to nominally present support for gay causes. But in 96, that's not far after Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It was not the Democratic Party that we know today in terms of their support of gay rights. It was like support of gay rights. Like it wasn't like a full handhold. It was like a pinky. Hey, we watch The Real World. We care about Pedro. No, we got breaking news here before we start wrapping up from Renegade. Oh, there's an inflatable chicken at the White House. Breaking news, everybody. Somebody inflated a chicken with Trump's hair behind the White House. So there we go. That's how we leave you today. Ladies and gentlemen, you can email this show by going to theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Music has been provided by Valesco and Trop Killers. Go ahead and follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere. And, of course, download archived episodes of this show at bonerwars.com. Support the show, patreon.com/JuRY. If you are up to $3 a week, you get a special RSS feed that gets you all of my headline episodes. Till next time. Some shows talk about politics. Some shows talk about politics. Other shows, well, they talk about politics, but this is the only show. The only show on the internet talks about all three. We will see you guys next week.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.